Hi all, welcome to Lee Valley in Engage. I'm Stu, and as you can see, there's been a bit of work that's been done, especially with the bridge, and also with the canal, and some of the other bits and pieces that we've done here too. So let's have a look at what we've. So let's go back a few weeks, and we'll see a bit of inspiration of this for this scene, and also some of the other stuff I managed to do with it as well. So let's have a look at that. Right, so I thought a good place to start for this video would be to show you some of the inspiration that I've got for the canal scene. This is Folly Island, which is in the centre of Hertford. And as you can see, it's an area of housing in the actual centre built for the Macmillan's Brewery that is borders the canal and has other estates sort of behind the canal as well. There is this nice little bridge which shows you paving slabs next to cobbled stones, which is same as on the actual the layout itself. This is the canal basin as well, and shows you how old some of this area is too, and some of the brickwork and stonework. There's also a nice little pub there as well. So this is just sort of the main area that has given me this inspiration. When I came to take these photos, I actually forgot about the Great Northern Railway branch that connected between Hertford East and Hertford North. Here's the actual bridge itself, and shows that the embankment actually didn't have any wing walls against the bridge abutment, as you can see here. So this actually gives a good idea for the model for me to build. And here's another one on the other side of the canal. So let's have a look at what we've managed to do this time. Okay, so this is some of the work that's been done just so far on this board. We've got here the road, which has been done with this embossed card. This has just been glued down with some PVA, and then these are like some self-adhesive strips of footpath with just some stones. There's not actually any relief on those. But yeah, it doesn't look too bad. This is the canal boat actually that I forgot to mention last time. So that's there as well. And as you can see, we've got this stone effect on the canal sides as well. I painted it green up a little bit on one course, because that's about the depth that the canal is going to be. And it's just to make sure that it's not going to show through, because if you look at the actual real canal, virtually as soon as any side of the canal hits the water, you can't see anything beneath the actual water level. So yeah, so really what we need to do now is that this needs to be painted to a darker green. I've got some black and the actual green paint with this, so I'm going to mix that together, and yeah, we're going to get that going, and hopefully that will look a lot better. Okay, so we've managed to get the river painted now, the canal. So that's that part done. Now the next sections next thing we have to do is we're gonna have to varnish this footpath, this road and the footpath, and also these walls here on the side. This is just to make sure that that's actually still wet. Just to make sure that we can actually, so that when I pour the actual resin in, which I've found now, which is this Deluxe Materials Realistic Water. So once we pour that in, we will then, you want to make sure, because these are card, that they actually don't get, that they don't suck up too much of the water, too much of the resin, and then end up going all, as card does when it gets wet, all wobbly and everywhere. So that's the main thing that is next to be done. While we're waiting for that to dry, which I will try to avoid the camera, we're going to sort this out. Now this is the top board for the track. As you can see, fits very nicely, as you can see in all the other videos that I've been done with this. Biggest issue that we've got with this is that just here, I don't know if you can see it here. Oh, actually, it'd be better if I switch this light on. There we go. So here we've got a hole, And there is another hole here. Now, I've got to stick, now this is not going to be thick enough to put the point motor through. So what I've done is very quickly, some on the offcuts, I've cut out these two sections of wood, and all we're going to do is just glue them underneath, clamp them, and then that should give enough thickness so that when I try and attach the point motor, it's going to give it a bit more strength. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to talk about the bridge. So this is where we got to now. We've got to the bridge. So the way that I was going to do this beforehand was I was going to use these. These are Pico girder sides. I can't remember the product number for these. And they're pretty good. They're not too bad. They come in a pack of 4, which is pretty handy because it's the fact I only need 2 of them. But what I found with these is that I found a slight problem with them. Now, they are the right thickness of the wood, so it could look pretty good like that, like with this on here. It's probably not going to be able to see it from there at all on where the camera is positioned. And that looks pretty okay. But the problem is the track, because the track feels like it's slightly higher than the actual girders itself. And they would really be positioned slightly lower into the girders, because there's going to be girders coming up from here that the track's going to be supported on. So they would really be sort of in between, sort of roughly about here, in between this eye, if the camera shows that up. So really the girders would need to see on top is a little bit too much. It's fine for the track, but the problem is you end up with this massive chunk here of wood, which doesn't look particularly good, and you would need to turn that into some sort of beam or girder or whatever, but it doesn't look great and doesn't look that real with the fact that you've got the girder here at the bottom of these bridge sides. The only other option would be to cut it in half, and so we take a chunk out of here, like a little step out, which would work, but isn't really what I want to be doing. So I've been having a little think about this, and what I did is that I needed to order some spares and stuff for some of my locomotives anyway, from a company called Farish and Spares. Really good supplier of spares, and part of their they have this company called Nightwing, which is part of what they have there as well on their shop. And they had this bridge, which is a double girder bridge, and it's plastic, and it's got some white metal legs on it. This is supposed to be a double track bridge, but it's sold in 2 halves, 2 single halves. Now, these sections, when I show you the actual real bridge that I'm trying to base this off, these are actually it's more or less a vertical identical to this, so they're a lot better than these. They're much higher. The other thing I found with these is they're slightly longer, which is an issue, because I originally made this gap between this bridge, these 2 sections here, for these beams, these bridge sides. So what I need to do is that I'm going to have to cut these down. Now, it probably means that one of these sections is going to have to be removed, and the bridge deck itself is going to have to be lowered down. But the bridge deck itself is pretty good. It's nice and flat. It's a lot thinner, so it's going to look a lot better on here. The track as well nicely slots in there and looks pretty good inside it. I mean, I'm going to be more like that, but it looks pretty good. So I'm quite happy with that. 2 of these right next to each other isn't going to come up to this width, is going to be slightly over this width. So they're going to have to be cut on one side as well, just down slightly on both of the bridge decks, just to make them the right width for this. So that's a fairly easy thing to do. But the problem, the only issue it's going to be then, is that I'm going to have to cut this section of wood out. So that's going to have to go. And then I'm going to have to cut a small step into each of these sides. This side might be a little bit more tricky, although I think I'm going to cut this back slightly more anyway. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to have to do. That's the next stage for the bridge. this is going to be a fairly straightforward project, I think. So yeah, that's the next thing I will do. Also, apart from the varnishing, and also I need to finish off this path. So pretty much I'm going to have to build this bridge, slot it in at the right level for this, and cut this piece of wood out, and then yeah, and then we can finish off this path and get the river poured. So hopefully that should be a pretty good parts for the next parts of the project. Okay, so there's the bridge. It's made of 3 sections. So we've got 2 sides, and we've also got the centre parts. Now, which is the bridge deck. This is going to be cut. I'm going to have to cut these 2 together. So it's going to be cut 2 ways. We're going to have to cut a section down here so that it fits widthways, and also that we need to cut the actual length of it as well to shorten it. There is a slight issue where we've got this bump here on the edge to make it look nice and neat when the sides are attached. This is going to be a slight issue when we actually cut the sides. It might not marry up. We're just going to have to see how that works out when we get there. But the first stage is to cut the width, and this is very simple. So this is the section of baseboard here for it, to make sure it's the right way around. That would help. What I've done is that this has been removed from the support that was here. That's been screwed onto the baseboard. And then what we need to do is that, as you can see, that's going to be too long, so we have to cut that down that way. The reason we have double lines is this is going to be the actual cut on the wood, and this is going to be the start of a shelf where we're actually going to actually hold the bridge deck on to make it nice and smooth when we actually finally get there, to actually have the bridge deck attached. The centre line is the mark for the bridge decks for the actual sections, if this will stay upright. So what we're going to have to do is, as you can see, if I lay that there and lay that one there, there's about 2 mil gap or so that we're going to have to cut. So what we're going to do is that we're going to mark each section and then just cut a small bit off of each section so they marry up in the middle. And hopefully they'll marry up in such a way that this will look like one continuous section in the middle with these ribs. I'm going to also add some plastic on top of it, but we'll show you when we get there, just to hide the gap. So yeah, let's get going and mark this up, and then we can cut it. Okay, so what I've managed to do is that on both sides we've managed to cut it down. I mean, some of these are pretty rough, but hopefully, I mean, this part just needs a bit of filing, so we're going to give it a bit of a file. at some point. We're also going to stick some plasticard over the top of this, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this, because if I can get this plasticard on the top, it means that it hides this join. So that's one of the big things I'm going to do. Plus also I can paint it up in the same way with the bridge. It looks like metal plating. You quite often get metal plating in the middle of the bridge because there's actually 3 sets of girders. There's one here, and one would be the other side. So there should be enough. So it should actually look pretty good actually to try and do that and try and imitate that. What I need to do now is I need to cut the length. I've already marked this one and already given it a small cut. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to cut them into the right length, and hopefully they will fit up to that. Hopefully they will fit the right length on the board. What I might also do is I'm cutting it deliberately a little bit longer, so that if necessary I can cut this shorter on this end, and then we can so they actually marry up to the same length, and just file it down. I don't mind doing that. Better to cut it too long than too short. So that's what I'm going to do now. So here we are, we've done it now. So this has been cut along this edge, and also we've cut it to the right length. So that is exactly where it should be. One thing I did notice is that these are actually slightly offline. These actually need to be in line with these lines here, which is where the edge of the track is going to be. So this is roughly where it needs to be. Now all I need to do now is cut out a piece of plasticard which can fit on the underside of this, just to glue it together. And I'm just going to get another smaller piece of plasticard which is going to go over the top. So it's not going to cover this completely, so that you'll still be able to see these ridges, but it's just going to cover over that gap. So it's not going to be visible at all. And then all of this we painted a separate color at some point as well, probably when I get the actual main girders sorted out. But yeah, this is just mainly just to try and make sure that this is one piece. It's going to stay nice and strong, and then we can then sort of work on. Then the next stage will be working on the actual board itself, and to get this cut out and to the right level. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do the plasticard, and yeah, that's the next stage. So this is it now. I've managed to finally finish off this bridge deck. Last time I showed you with the plasticard, that was cutting out the plasticard. So this is it, being fixed onto it. It's been fixed slightly onto the back and onto the front as well. It's probably not as thin as I wanted it to, but I think that's because of the actual the gap there, but it's going to be pretty good. What I'm planning to do is I think all of this is going to get painted a gunmetal color, and then I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing or something like that of weathered black, just to try and just tone it down slightly and make it look a little bit less plasticky, especially the bridge deck. I was going to do that anyway. So the next stage is to cut this piece. So what we've got is that we have 2 lines here, as you can see. So these lines are, so this first line here that you can see, this is the actual where this piece needs to be cut away. So that is the main saw line. The second line, this is the line where the edge of the bridge is. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to cut down a line to about the thickness of the bridge, and then cut across this piece of wood this way, just to make a nice little step in the actual in the wood, just so the bridge can actually sit on it. Yeah, so that's the next step really. A little bit of extra work I've been doing on this. I've been putting some varnish on, so that's moving slowly forwards. I need to put a few coats on that, and then we can think about pouring the river. So yeah, so that's the next stage for that. And yeah, let's get on and cut this board. Okay, so the bridge has now been complete. I managed to cut this all down nicely. So the bridge deck is now in. So as you can see, we've laid some track over the top. So let's have a go at doing a little test run and try and see how this looks. As you can see, it looks pretty good at the moment. So let's just run a couple of trains over it, and let's just see how the bridge behaves and whether it's going to be able to support the trains or not. As you can see, that didn't seem to move very much. Let's try a couple others then and see how they go. So what I thought I'd do now is that I thought I'd try a heavier loco that was a fairly light little shunter. So let's try and see if this Union Mills D16, whether that makes it move very much. If it decided to work. Wasn't too much flex there. Probably didn't help with the fact of the track here, which isn't particularly very well down. But then, to be honest, this is just slightly laid stuff anyway. I can pin this down. But yeah, I think overall that's gone pretty well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. And I think on the next video, we're going to concentrate more on the actual bridge itself, and we're going to focus on actually completing it with the girders. Plus also, hopefully, we'll actually be able to show a bit more work that's been done here. I have been putting some varnish on some of these, ready for the pouring of the water in the canal. So hopefully that will be the next thing. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.